Stand up.
Hello, friends. It's Thursday. I'll be hosting a hangout tonight at 8 p.m. If you're a paid subscriber, I hope to see you tonight at 8 p.m. Joining me today from Democracy Forward, the brilliant lawyer and advocate, activist of sorts, I suppose you could say, Skye Perryman is joining me, a pro-democracy activist, that is. So I'm very excited to share that conversation. We want to stay talking and keep relevant. The $1.7 billion, almost $2 billion, let's call it. That's what they do. They overestimate everything by $1 billion or more. Slush fund for Trump and his kids, and also this new rule that they've somehow passed that Trump and his kids can never, ever have to pay any taxes or back taxes or be investigated. It's crazy. And we had a great conversation with Skye Perryman about it. I got a couple clips coming up for you as well. I hope that you are doing okay. I sure am. A little bit late this morning because I had to do a lot of work catching up. Yesterday I took off because I was in New York City watching Ava graduate from college. That's right. She went to a year of Ithaca University and then transferred to the Fashion Institute of Technology because she wanted to be in New York City. She is a filmmaker and an artist, and she got work as a personal trainer and now has a whole personal training business. Graduated from college, met a great guy, and now she's moving to Europe for at least a year to live in Florence with her mom, and her sister's going to be moving to Amsterdam. It's a very exciting time in my personal life in terms of this transition for my girls, for Val, and for me. So thank you very much for being along for the ride and for all of your support and kind words. My parents came down, and as you know, Mom and Dad had a terrible accident. Mom was in hospital for almost a month, and everybody is good. And so I just bring it up to say that I run on gratitude. And yesterday was one of those days where I wasn't going to worry about anything else other than the moment and trying to be in it. And that's what we accomplished. It was a great day. I hope that you are doing okay. Headed into Memorial Day weekend. I'll be live with Ophira Eisenberg, I think, at 10 a.m. And I might be talking to Admiral Stavridis around 11:30 and about his new book, along with my old friend Elliot Ackerman, both veterans. They've written a 3-part series, and I'm supposed to be talking to them not at 11:30, I think at 12:30 today live. So look for those two different interviews today, maybe more, and I'll see you at tonight's hangout. Let's get to the news and clips I've brought for you today. I can't do it without you. This is an ad-free show. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. It's time for the shit show.
It's Pete's Headlines and Clip Show. Get in on the shit show.
John Carroll, always great. All right, let's start with this story I'm just getting read in on. But yesterday, the Justice Department charged a 94-year-old former president of Cuba and brother of Fidel Castro. That's old Raul. They charged him with murder and conspiracy to kill U.S. citizens from accusations from 1996 of downing 2 civilian planes, which were connected to a group that made provocative flights over the island. Boy, they really had to go back and then really very much reach for some connection here. Apparently, the charges are part of an effort by our regime to topple theirs, the Cuba's communist government. They also laid the grounds for potential action by the U.S. military to remove Raul Castro from the country. And, you know, we've done it before. Not too long ago, I think it was back in December, when we indicted Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro, and then we captured him. And one of the Navy SEALs bet on the capture and made $500,000, and now he got arrested for it. Anyway, Raul Castro is an old, frail man. He can barely hear, he can barely talk, and he doesn't have any official title. But I guess he's still got a lot of power, particularly over the military. He's also had a hand in secret negotiations with the Trump regime, apparently, according to the New York Times. Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State and everything else, the son of immigrants who left Cuba before the Castro Revolution, reached out to a grandson of Castro to try to negotiate an economic opening. But U.S. officials have grown impatient. In a rare direct address, the New York Times writes, Rubio urged Cubans to align with the Trump administration. Cuba's ambassador to the UN said the country was ready to negotiate, which is a pretty big deal, but they did not believe the U.S. was operating in good faith. And so now everybody, most of the smart people I follow, I think, are saying, why would you bet against them doing exactly in Cuba what they did in Venezuela? So I think that's just on the shelf of distractions. It's on the distraction shelf. And when they need it, they will pull it down. When the flame gets too close, the Epstein flame or anything else, they'll be like, I think maybe now is the time to invade Cuba, right? I was really happy to read about my friends Harry Dunn and Danny Hodges suing to block this new slush fund. Here it is again from the New York Times. 2 police officers who defended the Capitol on January 6th filed a lawsuit in effort to block a 1.8, well, they're calling it 1.8 in the New York Times, a $1.8 billion fund created this week by the Justice Department to pay people who claim mistreatment by the federal government. The officers accused the Trump administration of creating a slush fund to reward the pro-Trump rioters who had tried to stop the certification of the 2020 election. We'll hear from my friend Harry Dunn himself in the clip show coming up, but also wanted to mention this other crazy story that apparently there was this plot, the real conspiracy. U.S. and Israel worked together and had this conspiracy. They contacted the former president of Iran, Ahmadinejad, and tried to make a deal with him to replace the supreme leader. Yeah, they were going to replace the supreme leader with Ahmadinejad. Remember that guy who was super anti-Israel and a firebrand? Of course you do. Plan, which Ahmadinejad was consulted on, apparently quickly went awry. How? Well, he was wounded in a strike that had been designed to free him from house arrest. Soon after, he became disillusioned with the regime change effort, and he's not been seen since. So that failed. That didn't work out. I think Trump even said that out loud. Did he? Look that up. Iran threatened yesterday to spread the war beyond the Middle East if aggression against Iran is repeated. And I think General Fatton is continuing to threaten Iran on social media and anywhere else. Let's see, what else? A federal judge has ordered aides to dear leader to continue to observe the requirements of the Presidential Records Act, despite a Justice Department opinion that found the law unconstitutionally intrudes on presidential power. The judge, by the way, was a George W. Bush nominee appointee, but that is another loss. The Pentagon announced late Tuesday that it was pausing the deployment of any additional troops to NATO ally Poland as the Trump administration pulls thousands of forces from Europe. So I don't know what good will come of that necessarily. We will see. In a related story, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau instructed State Department officials to facilitate and improve a visa for a fugitive former Polish cabinet minister, allowing him to flee to the United States from Hungary. Poland is seeking to prosecute former justice minister, whose name I can't pronounce, but the architect of changes to the Polish judicial system that the EU has said undermine the rule of law during the 2015 to 2023 rule of the Conservative Law and Justice Party. So that's a very interesting story. They're going after Hungary is trying to hold former Hungarian officials' feet to the fire for what they did to destroy the country, and they're running to the U.S. for sanctuary and being helped by the administration. Shocking. Another indicator of economic tumult. Bond markets convulsed on Tuesday, pushing the rates on U.S. Treasuries to levels not seen since the global financial crisis nearly 20 years ago. Oh, great. The yield on the 30-year Treasury note rose to 5.18%, the highest level since 2007, and bond yields moved inversely to prices, according to this article I'm reading again at the New York Times. Let's see, what's this? The Defense Department's Inspector General will evaluate whether U.S. Southern Command followed the department's processes for targeting enemy combatants during its campaign against people the Trump administration accuses of smuggling drugs at sea. So let's see what happens with this investigation. But a Pentagon Inspector General is going to take a look at that. They still have inspectors general at the Pentagon? Well, that's good. And Minnesota is taking this step first, probably won't be the last ones, but a day after Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota signed into law the first state law explicitly barring prediction markets, the Trump administration sued the state, seeking to block it from going into effect this summer. The law, which had the backing of a bipartisan group of state legislators, would make it illegal to host or advertise a prediction market site in Minnesota. So you could still do it. You could still bet on them as a Minnesotan, I think is my understanding. You're just not going to be able to host or advertise them on like a website. I think that's what they mean by host. All right, those are the headlines that I've got for you today. Now let's get to that clip show. And let's start with Stephen Colbert. It's his last week. A lot of people are very sad about that, me included for sure. And last night was his last show. A lot of people would wondered how it would end. Well, it ended not with Stephen Colbert, but with Bruce Springsteen performing Streets of Minneapolis. I'm going to play for you Stephen Colbert introducing Bruce Springsteen, who got the last word on CBS's Late Show, playing his now well-known song, Streets of Minneapolis, right? I faded out before it gets into it. But it's pretty cool because Colbert's last words on his last show are,
"Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Springsteen."
Thank you, Stephen. I'm here in support tonight for Stephen because you're the first guy in America who's lost his show because we got a president who can't take a joke. and because Larry and David Ellison feel they need to kiss his ass to get what they want. So these are. Anyway, Stephen, these are small-minded people. They got no idea what the freedoms of this beautiful country are supposed to be about. This is for you.
all right, that's how it sounded last night. That's how Colbert, The Late Show, ended. So what's next? Well, here on this show, another clip of Stephen Colbert. Because 2 nights ago in his monologue, he did a pretty good job explaining some details around this slush fund, and I wanted him to get us started before I get into more clips about it.
The judge in the case seemed highly skeptical of this lawsuit. So to get around the court's oversight, yesterday, Trump's lawyers and Trump's DOJ, him on both sides, agreed to drop the case and set up this slush fund. And who exactly is this fund slushing? Well, one group of lucky slushies could be people prosecuted in connection with the January 6th Capitol riot. That means people who stormed the Capitol, rubbed their poop on the walls, assaulted police officers, and tried to hang Vice President Mike Pence could be getting this cash. But they won't because Trump's going to steal it all. Why is that my educated guess? Because the funds are going to be managed by a 5-person commission appointed by the Attorney General, though Trump would have the right to remove any member at will. So, I'd like to congratulate the inaugural commission for Donald Trump's slush fund, Marco Rubio, and Marco Rubio. Now, he's from Venezuela. I think that last guy's from Venezuela. Yeah, something like that. Rubio. Now, you might be saying, surely this can't get more corrupt. Shut up. I'm talking, and it can. Because most egregiously, the guidelines announced by the acting attorney general stipulate once the funds are deposited into the designated account, the United States has no liability whatsoever for the protection or safeguarding of those funds, regardless of bank failure, fraudulent transfers, or any other fraud or misuse of the funds. So it's just an all-you-can-fraud buffet. It's an unprecedented level of grift because, again, funds of this scale typically are either created by an act of Congress or supervised by a court. And this settlement is just some piece of paper they printed out saying that Trump can do anything he wants with a bunch of your money. Officer, you can't arrest me, for you see, I've already laminated my homemade murder license. This is not just fraud is legal now. Today, the Justice Department posted an addendum to the original settlement, which says that the IRS is forever barred and precluded from pursuing examinations of Trump, related or affiliated individuals, and related trusts and businesses. So he just gave himself a get-out-of-jail-free card, and a way better one than Jeffrey Epstein got. Yeah. Halfway around the world, somebody owes me money.
Yeah, there you go. Colbert setting us up. Now let's go to CNN's Caitlin Collins because she had a Republican House congressman named Brian Fitzpatrick. And now there are others as well. But here he is saying, well, at least he is against allowing any money going to J6 insurrectionists who beat up cops.
I mean, even just as a member of Congress, as a Republican, as a person, the administration won't rule out as just saying that people who beat up cops that day, of which there are videos. I mean, The vice president yesterday was saying, well, maybe they didn't get a fair hearing or a fair court court case. I mean, there's videos of the people who beat up the cops that you can watch. That was used to convict them by a jury of their peers. Does it make sense to you why they won't just rule it out for the people who were literally beating up law enforcement?
No, it should be an easy question to answer. I don't know why they're having such difficulty answering it. I can answer it. Not a dime should go to them. Not a single dime.
All right. Well, we'll see about that. One of the cops who was attacked that day is my friend Harry Dunn. He, along with Danny Hodges, they've filed suit. And here is Harry on CNN talking about it last night with the Coop, Anderson Cooper.
I do believe that it absolutely sets the stage for Donald Trump to do it again. I call it Donald Trump, this payment is going to serve as a retainer. People have retainers for their lawyers, so when they need them, they're available. Donald Trump is putting a retainer on a mob, on a militia that's already showed the violence that they're willing to enact on his behalf. And he's incentivizing it, too. Because I don't believe that in 2029, Donald Trump is going to leave office peacefully. Why? Because he doesn't have a track record of doing it. He's the first president in over 250 years to say we're not going to have a peaceful transfer of power.
Yeah, good job, Harry Dunn. Now, here's Tara Setmeyer on CNN, just not missing a beat as she tears up Scott Jennings. And I feel like speaks for all of us or captures the passion and makes a lot of good points for all of us in this, like, I feel like it's like a 2-minute rant on CNN on the Abby Phillips show. It's just not screaming, but like really dressing down anybody who agrees with this Scott Jennings or anyone else about all of this. Here it is.
Okay, it was 2 years. It was 2 years.
But it's $1.776 billion.
And 2 years after the statute of limitations on this, it was not the federal government who did this. It was an individual contractor. The Supreme Court has ruled three times.
On his own.
The Supreme Court has ruled 3 times in precedent since 1911 that you cannot be the judge of yourself on anything. And so Donald Trump is sued himself to get a fund now settled with himself to get a fund where he's going to write a check for himself. We all know that this is bullshit.
You agree with the leak?
This is a MAGA victimization fund that is sanctioned by Donald Trump. How dare he? How dare he? You look in the face and you justify this to the families of the police officers who were beaten, who were almost killed, to the people who were killed, to the people whose careers are ruined. I don't know about you, Scott, but I've spent time with those officers and their families, and their lives have been ruined. And unlike you, tonight you're saying this, but Todd Blanche could not say that today during his Senate hearing. Neither could J.D. Vance say and guarantee to the American people that any of those violent bastards who did that to those people who tried to overthrow our election on January 6th would not get a dime from this. American tax dollars should not go to this. This is dishonorable. It's grotesque. And anyone who tries to hide behind some kind of patriotism behind this should be ashamed of themselves. Look in the eyes of the families of the people who suffered on January 6th. You know who the victim is here? Them and our democracy. And shame on anyone who tries to justify this. And it's our dollars that they're robbing to do this. It's grotesque and despicable.
And it's also unconstitutional.
Absolutely. And I'm glad to see Jamie Raskin and the Democrats are going to challenge it.
Yes, that was Ana Navarro there in the end. All right, now let's check in with Jon Stewart on Colbert. I think this was a couple nights ago, but this was a really great moment for the reason, the first point he makes about how all of us are living our lives in kind of comparison to, or in this time in reaction to, this insane man and his administration, and then goes on to make a larger point about what happened in Hungary when they repudiated Orban. That is going to happen here. That day is going to happen, I think. I hope. Anyway, here's Jon Stewart saying it much better. Why did I have to set it up like that? I should have just played the clip.
The ubiquitous bloviating of the commander-in-chief has put us all as defined as who we are in opposition to him.
That's right, yeah.
And it's just a ridiculous framing.
Yeah.
It's a minute portion of the joy machine that you call your show. And it's annoying. And let me say this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, not just for this show, but for the country. The day, oh people, close your eyes and dream. The day that the electorate in this great nation we call home repudiates this putrid administration, the day that happens, my brother, there will be, and I mean this, the day that happens, there will be a joyful noise from the bowels of this great country that will make Hungary's repudiation of Orban look like an Amish Sabbath.
Oh, man, it was so good. It was such a good little piece of commentary there. And now let's head over to Jamie Raskin, who I don't think this needs set up either. He, too, is talking about the slush fund.
The Southern Poverty Law Center is not perpetuating a fraud. Today, the Trump administration is perpetuating a fraud against America by taking nearly $1.8 billion of our money from the U.S. Judgment Fund for the payment of actual court judgments and damages, and without any legal authorization from Congress, purporting to use it to pay off his once and future private militia. No one is fooled by all the counterfeit outrage about the SPLC and finger-pointing at the people who've actually been combating violent racism in America.
Yeah. Why is the Oversight Committee looking at a red herring manufactured, I would argue illegal, what they've done to the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Justice Department? Why are they looking at that and not the real scandal, obviously? And I think this is a really interesting clip, and it is from the NAACP's President Derek Johnson, and he's got members of the Congressional Black Caucus behind him. They have announced, the NAACP has announced, they're calling for a boycott of Southern college sports programs over voting rights. That's right, the NAACP calling on black athletes and fans to boycott the athletic programs of public universities and states that are taking steps that the nation's oldest civil rights groups say restricting black voting rights. Of course, it was launched on Tuesday. It's called the Out of Bounds campaign. And here he is, Derek Johnson, talking about it with members of the Congressional Black Caucus standing behind him.
In this moment when black representation is under attack, it is important for the CBC to keep in their tradition of being the moral of the Congress, but the moral of conscience of this country. No representation, no revenue. No one black should be on a playing field of institutions that's living off of our labor, and yet in states that are seeking to reinstitute a sharecropping reality. It is not the responsibility of black America to hold individuals who should know better accountable for doing better. As soon as the United States Congress stand united to ensure our Constitution represent all of us, we will be a better nation as a result. NAACP this morning, in solidarity with the CBC, we are calling on athletes who are coming out of high school not to attend any state-funded schools of states that have moved to minimize our right to vote, to minimize our ability to elect candidates of our choice, and states that are seeking to create a sharecropping reality. Whether that state be Missouri or Mississippi, whether that state is South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, or Florida. 55% of all African Americans live in the former Confederate South. But the 55% of us who live in the former Confederate South, we will not tolerate a Confederate mentality on our labor, on our ability to contribute, and our ability to be to have representation. In this moment, our democracy is in crisis. This is not about partisanship. This is about true representation. And for the NAACP, we will fight with all we have in solidarity with the Congressional Black Caucus to ensure that we have representation, or if we don't, we will withhold the talent that play on the football field or on the basketball court, be them men or female, in this moment.
Wow, it'll be really interesting to see how effective that is and how it's perceived in the black community, and specifically black community of athletes who are going to be offered a lot of money to play at many of those schools. I haven't read into if there is any controversy at all. So we'll be watching it closely. And now I want to throw to Mehdi Hassan on Piers Morgan's ubiquitous YouTube show, I guess, where he called out all of the Republicans and right-wingers who are completely ignoring or paying very little attention to this shooting at a mosque in San Diego, which details are still coming out. Just absolutely horrific. But Mehdi is great as always.
When a mosque is attacked in the U.S., Republican politicians are either silent, I pointed this out, that Ted Cruz did not condemn it until I called him out on it. Multiple Republicans have still not condemned. Elise Stefanik has not condemned it. She's busy condemning some Democratic candidate in Texas who said something awful. They have not condemned a terrorist attack in the United States. That's one point. You can't find Democrats who do the same when there's a synagogue attack or anything equivalent. And then, of course, there's no one on the Democratic side who's talking like Laura Loomer. There just isn't. Find me one person. Imagine, Piers, I said this on Twitter, imagine if an advisor to Joe Biden, a close friend and ally of Biden, when Biden was president, after a synagogue was attacked, had said the synagogue was evil and that all Jews should be removed from the U.S. It would have been the end of the Biden presidency. You would have been on a roll loop for 7 days straight. We know this. And yet Republicans get away with this stuff. You mentioned Andy Ogles. It's not just Andy Ogles. It's Representative Brandon Gill, who said Islamic immigration is killing us. Chip Roy, Representative Chip Roy of Texas, who said no more Muslims. He said in March in a tweet. You have, of course, Randy Fine, who you've had on this show, who said mainstream Islam, not Islamism, not jihadism. Mainstream Islam is an evil death cult, he said. If you're telling me that doesn't contribute to an atmosphere where people might want to pick up weapons and attack Muslims and mosques, I don't know what to say to you.
Well done. Well done indeed. You know, I probably should have played that Colbert clip with Springsteen right here at the end as I jump into my interview, but I messed it up. Oh, well. Sorry about that. Kimmel and the other late night shows were off last night as a tribute to Stephen Colbert. And now it is time to get to my guest. Remember, this is an ad-free show. I can't do it without your support. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. If you're listening to the show and you don't pay anything, it's okay. I'm not going to try to guilt you, but it would be awesome if you did, because it's technically it's free, but it isn't cheap. It's a lot of work. So thank you. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic, or go over to Substack, get a paid subscription over there at Stand Up with Pete. Now it's time to get to my guest. It's Skye Perryman from Democracy Forward, an amazing organization, amazing, brilliant lawyer doing great work. You can watch this interview on YouTube or Substack and go to democracyforward.org and support them. Skye is the president, CEO of Democracy Forward, one of 2025's 100 most influential people in the world, according to Time magazine. And she's won a lot more awards than just that. And so always happy to talk with her. Real smart, always brilliant. Let's do it. Skye Perryman, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. Great to see you.
Hey, it's great to be here.
I think that yesterday's news is such a big story about the $1.8 billion, quote, anti-weaponization fund. I don't know how to quantify. You are very much in the weeds with legal things in this administration and so much more. How do you talk about what this settlement means? And by the way, just to clear up, it's a settlement. It's not a judgment. Like, this doesn't get overturned, right?
Well, it's not a judgment. It's a settlement, but it's unlawful. And so I'm happy to talk you through kind of how we're looking at this and what you might see in the days ahead.
Yeah, please hold our hand.
So number one, let's just review the bidding. The president filed a case against the IRS, immediately said, I am suing myself. Like, that is what he said. And he did it for $10 billion. And wanted to settle, I just want to be very clear, wanted to settle the case, I think, initially, where he himself would get $10 billion as a result of what he claims a leaked sort of tax information. So just to be clear, out of the gate, that's what he wanted.
He said the IRS leaked my tax information when I was not president. Now I'm president. I'm suing the IRS / myself. Is that?
I'm suing myself. Yeah, he says, I'm suing myself. He sued Trump v. IRS. I'm suing myself and I want $10 billion. That was the first foray here in Florida. And so we filed a brief right after he did that on behalf of people that had worked for the IRS and Treasury, former government officials that have served in Republican and Democratic administrations, as well as some groups, Watchdog and Good Government groups, to say, this case is crazy. There's no subject matter jurisdiction. The court doesn't have jurisdiction when there's not a controversy. Saying I am suing myself, there is not a controversy. And by the way, his claim is unhinged, late. I mean, there was a whole bunch of legal problems with it.
Right.
The judge did in that case what we had asked her to do, which was to appoint other, to basically, she doesn't have jurisdiction we wanted her to dismiss it. She was on her path, I think, to doing that. She appointed these other lawyers to come in independently and provide the court with independent briefings, since you can't rely on the government to do that, since he is suing himself. And those lawyers had already come in just a few days ago and said, yeah, there's a real jurisdiction problem here. Courts don't just get to hear fake controversies. There doesn't seem to be a controversy. And so in order to avoid losing on the initial attempt to get $10 billion, the government has now settled with itself for the creation of this $1.7 billion retribution fund, weaponization fund. So that's where we are today. You're going to see, if we haven't sent it already, you're hearing it here first, but we probably just sent it. We are sending a letter to the Department of Justice, to Todd Blanche and others today, saying, we represent former government officials in this matter. You need to preserve all documents. We're basically outlining all the things that you do in what we would call a litigation letter, pre-litigation letter. We've filed and opened a range of investigations. We believe the creation of this fund is completely unlawful and would be looking to and pursuing legal remedies on that. So as with everything that Trump does, he sort of does these things to normalize rank corruption, to sort of have the whole country. At first they were talking about $10 billion. Now we're talking about $1.7 billion, pushing the norms of these courts. I mean, it was a private settlement, pushing the norms of these courts. And then, and hoping that no one will come and oppose it. And so there will continue to be swift legal action. He probably won't be able to achieve what he is trying to achieve here. But for them, they have these distracting headlines and this idea that they are so powerful and look what we can do, et cetera. So that's where we are as of Tuesday morning.
Glad to see you guys are right on top of this and have taken action. That's awesome and a great reason to support Democracy Forward, because that stuff ain't free. But what comes next? Because there doesn't seem to be any oversight at all of this money.
Well, again, we believe the fund, the whole settlement and the fund and the creation of the fund is depending on how the government seeks to manage it. It could be even further unlawful. And so that's what I think, if you would watch this space, I think that is what you will see playing out in the coming days and weeks. Now, I would like to mention our friends in the Article 1 branch of the United States, our friends in the United States Congress, who also have an obligation to oppose this and have a lot of power when you start talking about judgment funds and the use of certain judgment funds. Many of these things are created, the authorities for them are created by Congress. So I would just remind everyone that while the lawyers, we're going to continue, we're going to be in court, we will use every legal tool. We opened multiple public records investigations yesterday. I imagine you'll see us suing on that soon. We also do have another branch of the government that is supposed to check the executive branch, and that is our friends in Congress. I did see some headlines suggesting that at least one Republican maybe has called him out on this, but I just want to, again, we need to make sure that we're also pushing all of our branches of government to do something here, because this is a place where I think Congress, could engage in a range of activities to check it.
What could Congress do? What should people be asking their congressional representatives to do?
Yeah, I mean, Congress could, make clear that this is prohibited. Congress could pass a range of censures, laws, other types of things that could make that even further clear. Although, just to be very clear, many of this sort of all started over a judgment fund that exists where he was trying to get the $10 billion. Those are things that are a creation of Congress, and Congress has the ability to put conditions on them. And I think that what we need to see, and it's not just Democrats, right? Like, Republicans in Congress need to look themselves in the mirror and, be like, is this really what we're doing now? What we are really doing now is we're going to sit idly by while a president pilfers the American people's money for his own benefit, in order to potentially, by the way, give this money to people who tried to harm members of Congress on January 6th. This is really a call for, what are congressional Republicans doing? And I think, politically, I think it's really a problem for the president and his allies, because the American people, even if they disagree on some policy things, no one likes this rank rank corruption. And that's exactly what this is.
I mean, I feel like that's true, but just further on the political argument quickly, what is the messaging? Like, how would you explain this to Democrats, Republicans, independents, anybody, people who aren't political, about what this is, this settlement is, and how they got it, where? I feel like one of the best arguments is where it comes from. Whose money is this, and why is there no oversight? Oh, I could see a lot of
the people's money. It's in a judgment fund, and Congress can exercise further oversight over the judgment fund. Now, I want to be very clear. We believe this is unlawful already. So I just want to be very clear, because that we believe this is unlawful on a variety of fronts already, but you can always do more. And these are creatures, and these are things that Congress has a role in. There are things in this democracy right now that it's not just the lawyers that are able to check. We also have to have Congress being activated. But really what we should be doing is how did this become something that is publicly acceptable to some segment of the elected populace, to some segment of the population, that we're just going to allow a president to come in? The general counsel of the general counsel of Treasury today has resigned. I mean, this was someone that was nominated by President Trump. Yes. I think just reported before I got on. This is someone that was nominated by President Trump. Okay. Probably not somebody necessarily marching in the streets for progressive causes. I don't know, but was someone that was nominated by President Trump, is the general counsel of a major federal agency, and has now resigned today over this settlement. So
the president somehow got his hands on almost $2 billion of American taxpayer money, and he is going to use, he's calling it's supposed to be this anti-weaponization fund. And the question now becomes, as James Comey, the former head of the FBI, has said, and as some might ask, maybe say Hunter Biden or others, could they get in line for that fund? James Comey says he may file a claim. This is just earlier on CNN, for Trump's new fund that he just created. He says, I'm guessing I'll be in line. What does this mean?
Well, I also think, and you and I have talked about this before, I just want to step back.
Okay.
President Trump's retribution agenda has been a complete failure for President Trump. He has not been able to secure indictments for many people. He has not been able to secure prosecutions for people. I do want to be very clear, because this is a president that wants everyone to be afraid of him, because he goes around and says, I'm going to investigate you. Tish James, Comey, every day there's some new Lisa Cook at the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. I mean, this is and this is not working out, because you can't make things up out of thin air. And that's what he has tried to do. And so I think this is yet again another way for him to try to posture around how he has all of this power. The retribution agenda is now that we're going to create this fund. We're going to have to see what the details of this are. Again, I believe it is unlawful. You will see us doing what we do when we detect unlawful things, which is, using the court system and pushing back. But it does raise a host of concerns. I mean, if you really want to look at who is the victim of the weaponization of government, James Comey is not a bad place to look. Letitia James, AG James, is not a bad place to look. A number of people, by the way, people like Jack Smith, who were just doing their job. I mean, a number of people who are just doing the job they're supposed to do,
I would say all those,
and following the law.
Many
exactly.
FBI agents. FBI
exactly. So let's go. Yeah, let's file the claims. But I think so. You'll see more on this. Watch this space. But I think the thing that on a year, especially a midterm year, to be honest, one of the things we just need to be focused on is how is this, that this is something that people are not, our elected representatives in Congress are not just up in arms about and saying, authority for this judgment fund comes from us. And this is not the appropriate use of this fund. And I think people need to be calling, and especially if you're not on the progressive side of the political spectrum, nobody likes this, and people should be calling and making their voices heard.
Absolutely. And finally, you get a lot of wins over there at Democracy Forward. Tell me some other good news that you're working on, or that you guys, we hear these headlines. And the problem is, I try to tell people this every day because I do a news segment every day. I read the headline. I try to then follow and make sure I update people weeks later when a court overturns something. They just had this, what was this reporting of, there was like 100,000 failed prosecutions or something, for immigration cases that they just couldn't actually succeed. You hear these headlines, but you don't hear the later headline of the great work that you and others are doing to file claims and then win. Tell me some.
Yeah, so bad news sells, and so we hear this often, bad news sells, and so there's a lot of noise out there about the losses, but there's a lot. There are a lot of wins. I'll do a few recently. We recently won another court order to keep ICE out of houses of worship to make sure that people can worship freely. That's the second one of these that we have won. One of them's on appeal. We're waiting for the appellate decision, but we're feeling quite good about that. We have recently won a number of court orders, yet again pushing back on the president's, he calls it an immigration agenda. I think it's a power grab agenda, but it's just all of the things that they do in the course of a day that are completely arbitrary and targeting people. We've continued to win and to be able to preserve important funding for education and higher education. The president had this letter, the Dear Colleague letter, that he wanted to penalize schools that teach real history. We've been able to push back on that. Today we're announcing, and this is actually in the realm of a collusive settlement. So this is what we've talked about. There was an attempt to undermine programs that help disadvantaged small businesses that are run by veterans, women, people of color. And it was one of these things where it was like two bad guys suing each other without any controversy. We were able to step in and intervene on behalf of the National Minority Contractors Association, get that thrown out of the court. So that's important. And then, of course, we have been a long-term counsel to GenBioPro, which is the generic manufacturer of the medication mifepristone that's used for reproductive health. And we were very pleased to celebrate GenBioPro and Danco, the other manufacturers, win at the Supreme Court last week. The Supreme Court blocked, at least for now, a very anti-scientific, harmful Fifth Circuit order that would have disrupted access to care for millions of people across the country. So that's just in the course of the last few days.
It's just in the course of the last few days. Those are all huge wins that impact people's lives in such profoundly negative, or in this case, positive ways. And just last question on totally that last case is, how much more is there to come on mifepristone, the most commonly used abortion drug?
Yeah. So look, the far right and the anti-science and anti-abortion communities have been after mifepristone for some time. So there's a bunch of different litigation out there. The administration is claiming that the FDA is doing its own study. The FDA doesn't do its own studies of mifepristone. So there will be a lot more to come. But what we want people to know, and this is what's so important, and this is, look, it's been a really hard last few weeks. The Supreme Court decimated voting rights. I was in Montgomery over the weekend because guess what? It is going to all be about the people. We've been saying that for some time now, and the people pushing back. We help people push back by going to court. But what we want people to know is that, you don't just get to say, well, because the Supreme Court is the way it is, or because, Stephen Miller gets on television and says they're winning in some appellate court somewhere. You don't just get to not use one of the biggest tools you have, which is the ability to go to court, the ability to cut through. I mean, it cuts through the media cycle when there's a lawsuit. People are interested and excited. That is a huge tool that people have. And we're continuing to win a lot, even if we're very disappointed in some of the setbacks.
One of the things that I try to tell people to stay positive and stay optimistic is to know what's happening in the world, and to know what Democracy Forward is doing every day it helps you understand. Just you listing off those wins lets people know a lot of good things happening and inspires the fight. Get in the fight. Were you inspired in Montgomery? Was that a good?
It was amazing. I mean, it was amazing. People from all over the country, people from there in Montgomery and local communities, thousands of people out in the heat all day long, joyous but determined. I mean, joyous, not going to take away our community, our ability to use our voices, our ability to be there for each other, but also determined. And I think that's what Donald Trump has underestimated about people. Everything that we're proud of in this country has come because of a struggle. Every single thing has come because of a struggle. And he is making us struggle, and we're going to be able to use this crisis to catalyze change. And it was incredibly inspiring.
And it's also always worth mentioning that struggle is why we have so much of what we have. So if you don't do anything now, you're letting those people down. Like, they fought. You think that you can just give up and just ride it out? I think a lot of Americans have gotten pretty used to that. It's clearly not how it works. They will come for your rights if we don't stop them. Skye Perryman leading democracy forward against that. Go support them. Skye, thanks for talking to me today.
Always
I really appreciate it last night. All right. There she goes, everybody. Skye Perryman, democracy forward. And that is it. I rambled on the YouTube live. If anybody remembers, it's Substack YouTube live. But it wasn't that good, so I cut it off. Thank you guys so much for listening. I love getting up early, doing the show every day. Can't do it without you. So sign up right now, patreon.com/PeteDominic or Substack @StandUpWithPete. If you can pay more, that'd be awesome. If you can write a rating or review on Apple, that would be huge. Go subscribe for free on YouTube and Substack. I'm on Threads. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on all of it. Tell your friends about the show. I hope to see you at tonight's Hangout at 8 p.m. And I'll be live, I think, at 10 a.m. with Ophira Eisenberg and 12:30 with Admiral Stavridis and Elliot Ackerman. That's the plan, at least. And so that is all I've got. Let me get this show up for you. Thank you so much for listening today. John Carroll, take us away.
I think you're driving wheels in leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know us right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run there.